Hey guys, what's up? Josh here. And I bet I can see your future. I bet you can see your own future too. So the question really becomes, are you headed in a positive direction, or are certain things dragging you down? Now I've been wanting to make a video on this specific topic for a while, and I talk a lot about networking, but I couldn't quite find the right language for this specific nuance. Then I got an email from Shane Parrish, the Brain Food newsletter from Farnam Street, that had this block of text in it. Quote, "Few things are more important in life than avoiding the wrong people. It's tempting to think that we are strong enough to avoid adopting the worst of others, but that's not how it typically works. We unconsciously become what we're near. If you work for a jerk, sooner or later, you'll become one yourself. If your colleagues are selfish, sooner or later, you become selfish. If you hang around someone who's unkind, you'll slowly become unkind. Little by little, you adopt the thoughts and feelings, the attitudes and standards of the people around you. The changes are too gradual to notice until they're too large to address." End quote. What a fucking gut punch. So stop and think about that for a minute. We unconsciously become what we're near. You've probably been hearing something like this since you were a teenager. I know I did. But you are the company you keep. Birds of a feather flock together. You become the average of the people you spend the most time with. The actual research in this area shows that peer groups are one of the most influential variables that determine academic success, financial success, mental health, life satisfaction, political affiliation, and so much more. All of this is true. It's terrifyingly or excitingly true, depending on who you spend time with and who you want to become. My personal life is really full of these experiences, and I'm sure your life is too. But for me, it was, drugs and low grades in high school and even in college until I sort of broke the cycle myself. And then as a tattooer, I've worked with egotistical, maniacal tattoo artists who tried to start dumpster fires for attention, and I noticed that I became guilty by association. But eventually, I decided to spend more time with figures in history and the thought leaders of today by picking up books and biographies. Then I found a community of philosophical self-help junkies. And I loved that community. Eventually, that community sort of faded away for me, but I made a small group of friends who are also artists, and we stuck it together, and they're all determined as fuck to dent the universe, and so am I. And this isn't new wisdom. Epictetus dropped this wisdom a couple thousand years ago. Quote, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." End quote. And that's part of the reason I network so heavily, to find those people who uplift me. And that's why I work so hard to share uplifting and inspiring practical advice on this YouTube channel. I put my heart and soul into these videos. I share uncomfortable things. So, I mean, if you've found them useful as a creative in taking steps to build your career or your network, I would personally appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and rang the bell, because That's the best way to let me know that you want more stuff like this. But back to the story. After cutting out negative influences from my own life, I had a really interesting meta moment where I saw someone else going down the inverse or opposite path. So I actually watched someone I used to admire greatly turn into their best friend, who happens to be a neurotic, dramatic, untidy mess who's in a toxic marriage and they can't seem to get their life in order. And that kind of breaks my heart, but there's nothing that I can do specifically for that person except be me. But now I focus on finding more of the rare gems that are also focused on improving themselves. I love surrounding myself with other people who are better off than I am in some way, because my peer group determines my future. That's why I regularly reach out to my heroes. That's why I regularly meet with a group of artists who I consider my mentors. That's why I read the books, the blogs, and the newsletters of the people who want to improve the lives of their audience. That's also why I don't tolerate toxic influences in my life, ever. I don't tolerate toxic shit in my family. I don't tolerate it in my friends. I don't tolerate it in my coworkers, because I'm not going to become the average of the people who don't want me to reach for the stars. And that sounds selfish in a way, but it's actually the opposite, because I don't want to be selfish, so I won't be around selfish people. I don't want to be dramatic. I don't want to glorify my mental health problems for sympathy, because it makes me feel good to get validation on social media. And that's not to say I don't have my problems, and that's not to say that I won't share my problems, but I'm not going to fake authenticity to get some sort of pat on the back. So if you want to know what I do look for in my social circle, this is it. Clear and positive values. Like, if they don't have clear values, then they don't know what they're living for. And if they do have clear values, they need to live in integrity with those values, even if those values don't directly align with my own. They have to have a strong sense of purpose. They need to be working towards something. And like, that purpose is a driving force. And I love seeing that in people. They need to have an attitude of abundance and generosity instead of scarcity and greed. They need to demonstrate an attitude of responsibility instead of victimhood. I want to surround myself with people who really look for solutions and what's the next step, instead of blaming everybody else for their problems. I'd like them to be financially stable and independent. And I understand circumstance can really have an impact on financial stability, but I seek to be strongly financially stable. So if I surround myself with people who aren't, then again, I'm going to adopt their bad money habits. So I really want to be around people who are financially stable and independent. I want to be around people who have strong minds with a growth mindset. I want to be around couples who have strong relationships, not toxic ones. And if they're parents, they had better be some damn good parents, because my kids are one of the most important things in my life, and I don't want to pick up negative parenting habits from other negative parents. Now, these are all traits that I want to cultivate in myself. I'm not perfect at any of these, but I'm trying to get better at all of them. So those are the traits that I look for in my associations. Basically, I have really high standards for my friends because I want them to have high standards for me. And then, I'm not saying that you should adopt all of the same traits that I look for in people, but you should be aware of the standards that you set for yourself and your tribe. So my challenge for you today is going to be one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. I mean, it really fucking sucks. Honestly, it's painful. It's terrifying. It can make you feel sad and lonely at first, but you'll probably thank me one day if, and this is a big if you can follow through. So my challenge for you is to look at who you spend the most time with. This is your friends and family. It's also the media you consume, so your Facebook feed, the news you watch, the books you read, and yes, the YouTube videos you watch. Look at all of these influences and ask yourself if you like the future you see there. If not, then change your future by removing the negative influences now, even if it hurts, even if it's scary, because really, that's the only way you'll be able to make room for the positive influences later. And again, I'd love if you considered me a positive influence, or not. If you don't, I understand. But if you do think I'm a positive influence, make sure you subscribe for more art and introspection, or share this video with someone who you think might need to hear this message. And until next time, keep drawing, painting, writing, or dancing your heart out. And we'll talk soon.